Okay, Family Feud, what's going on? Hey, welcome to Tuesday Morning Quarterback. Even though it's late Tuesday night, sorry about that, but hey, um, just trying to bring a new segment to the league. Um, we've already got somebody that's going to be doing predictions this year. The Wino has graciously, or the CIO as he is now, um, proclaimed and granted the title, Chief Instigation Officer. And he's doing a fine job of it. He's going to be doing the predictions this year. He's going to be breaking the games down. He's also throwing in some segments here and there with the True Blue and the crew down there talking about by the numbers, which we love. Hope we get some more of that. Instead of doing two predictions, instead of getting the Swami ball out, want to add a new segment this year called Tuesday Morning Quarterback. And basically, what this is going to be is it's going to be us looking back on the week that was. Going to be looking at lineup changes. Going to be looking at statistical anomalies. Going to be looking at woulda, coulda, shoulda. Going to be looking at penalties. Going to be looking at replays, challenges, whatever comes out. Looking back on the week like we love to do with fantasy football. It's the thing that kind of keeps us in there. It's that angst that we feel when we didn't get over the hump. It's that, hey, man, I made a great play and plugged in a good player and it got me over the hump. So that's basically what I want to do looking back on Tuesday Morning Quarterback. Going to do it tonight. May not be what it is going forward, but tonight I'm going to break a few things down for you looking back on Tuesday Morning Quarterback. Right off the bat, let's just start off with Young Guns and Crimson Rain. Game really didn't go as expected here. 84-57 Young Guns. It was our first game in the league for Young Guns against the veteran Crimson Rain. Crimson threw up the lowest total of the week with a 57. 57 is not going to get it done hardly ever in our league. There was a few things that stood out in this game statistically on this. First of all, I want to talk about the touches that the players had in the game. Touches is a big statistic to me. The amount of touches that your players get just means they're involved in the game plan. It means they're being used. They're not splitting too much time. It means you got number one players. And there was a pretty glaring difference in the touches in this game. The touches for the Young Guns was 54. And this is not counting their quarterbacks. This is all of the other skill position players. How many times the ball's in their hands. How many rushes. How many receptions. Not just targets, but touches. We had 54 touches from the Young Guns to a league low 39 touches for Crimson. That's 15 touches total difference in the game. And if you figure, just even 5 yards per touch on that, you're looking at 75 yards. You're looking at a 7-point difference, and that's not counting touchdowns. If we go into touchdowns in this game, Carson Palmer had 2 touchdowns for Crimson as his quarterback. He had 0 touchdowns from the rest of his lineup. Obviously, not going to get it done that way. Now, on the flip side of that, Young Guns had 0 touchdowns from his quarterback and only 3 touchdowns. But out of those 54 touches, he was able to generate enough offense to get 84 points, which pretty amazing, to tell you the truth, that he was able to get 84 points with only 1 touchdown from his position player, Spencer Ware. 0 from his quarterback, and only 2 touchdowns, 1 from each running back for Young Guns. 84 points with only 2 touchdowns on the entire squad is pretty nice. That means his guys are racking up some yardage, and good win for the Young Guns there. I do want to highlight something here in this game, that the 38 points scored by Young Guns running backs was the number 1 highest total for the week in the entire league. 26 from Ware and 12 from Langford, which, hey, who would have predicted Spencer Ware and Jeremy Langford would have been the top duo in our league? I don't think anybody. The other way that he distanced himself in this game was Jordan Reed had 6 and Kobe Fleener had a big 0 for Crimson. Horrible week for Crimson. He's going to have to rebound after that. So, moving on. Let's go to Nerds at True Blue. What are some stats that stand out in this game to me? Really, it was the game of the week, to tell you the truth. 90-83, it was the closest game that we had on the board. Both really, really good teams. The difference in this game, just like I talked about before, was the touchdowns. Nerds got 5 total touchdowns in his lineup. True Blue only got 2 touchdowns. Going back to the touches again, interesting. Nerds had 56 touches from his position players. True Blue had 64 touches, which was second highest in the league. The difference was who got in the end zone. And the difference was Andrew Luck. Nerds was able to get a massive performance, the number one QB performance of the week in Andrew Luck, 39 points. And honestly, I'm not too sure how many times in our league that a quarterback has gotten 39 points and the team has lost. When you throw up that kind of performance, 385 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2-point conversion, another 21 yards rushing, it's just massive. And that's compared against a pretty good performance in Cam Newton for True Blue with 24. You know, and True Blue's got to feel pretty good going forward. It was a down week for Cam, and he got 24. Now, here's something interesting about Tuesday morning quarterback that I do want to point out, is that if True Blue would have played the perfect lineup, there was still a shot for a victory here, and this is kind of what I like to do looking back on this game. First of all, True Blue started Christine Michael instead of Arian Foster. Okay, Arian Foster got 10 points and Michael got 7. So you got to figure True Blue maybe tried to listen to the talking heads too much there, play matchups instead of the tried and true, and he lost points there. Also, Sterling Shepard had 10 to Randall Cobb's 6. And then he had a defensive change where he had Baltimore and Buffalo. Those were his 2 defenses. They were playing each other in real life. He could have picked either one. He picked the lower scoring one. Now, he gets those 3 things right. He ends up winning the game by, I think, 2 points. Now, having said that, the Nerds had the top scoring defense on his bench. Vikings had 17 points, 2 touchdowns on his bench. He started the Rams, and they're 1 point. So that's what I like to do. I like to look back and see who could have made changes that would have won or lost the games. Nerds will have a tough time picking the Rams or Vikings going forward on that. So let's go. Let's move forward on that. Oh, I do want to point out one thing about the Nerds there. He picked up Carlos Hyde the very first day that he was able to pick him up. The commissioner really wanted Carlos Hyde. He left him on his bench. Hyde had 21. Adrian Peterson had 3 points on 19 carries. That is something to be monitored going forward. Okay, let's move forward. You know what? Since I just saw it on my sheet, let's talk about touches completely league-wide. The amount of touches that offensive players minus quarterbacks were able to pick up from each team. Leading all teams with touches was Triple T's. His position players touched the ball 66 times. As I said before, True Blue was number 2 with 64 touches. Dirte had 60 touches at number 3. Orange Crush, 4th in touches at 58. Dreads, 5th in touches at 56. Nerds, also tied, had 56 touches. Young Guns had 54 touches. Blake had a big drop off to 47 touches for Blake's Gangstas. Boats had 46 touches from his offensive players. And Crimson had a league low 39 touches from his offensive players. So you can see our top team had 66 touches, our lowest had 39 touches. That means we got what? 27 more opportunities for the Triple T's than Crimson. That's something to look at going forward. Interesting note on the touches statistic. Out of the top 7 teams that had the most touches, 5 of the 7 were winners in week 1. So 5 of your 7 teams who had the most touches advanced in week 1. Let's talk about touchdowns. Leading off, Dreads, who had the highest score of the week, had 8 touchdowns. Orange Crush had 7 touchdowns from their players. 5 touchdowns from Blake's Gangstas and 5 touchdowns from Nerds. 4 touchdowns from Boats, Triple T's, and Dirte. He had 3 touchdowns on True Blue Squad. He had 2 touchdowns on Crimson and Young Guns on that. So you got to feel pretty good if you're the Young Guns having the 7th most touches and only 2 touchdowns and coming away with a victory there is what jumps out at me on it. So just some stats that I found interesting. Let's talk about Orange Crush and Blake's Gangstas looking back on the week. Orange Crush announced her presence again. Our defending champion throws up 110 points. She has the most dynamic duo in the league. I don't think there's any question. Ben Roethlisberger to Antonio Brown. 53 points combined between that duo. Accounted for 4 total touchdowns in between the two of them. And if she gets any kind of production from her running backs, which she did, 18 from Abdullah and 9 from Martin, 12 from her tight end, she's going to be tough to beat. That's just bottom line. Gangster for not showing up at all for the draft. He did make some changes, and I think his lineup looks pretty good. He got 5 touchdowns. He didn't get a ton of touches, as I pointed out, but he did score 5 times. Now, 3 of those were from Aaron Rodgers, so he may have to look at that going forward. I will say this about this game. Orange Crush dominated Blake's Gangstas at every position. She outscored him at quarterback. She outscored him at running back. She outscored him at receiver, tight end, defense, and kicker. There was not a single position that Blake's Gangstas was superior to her, and that's how you get a 110-79 victory and an absolute dominating, crushing victory. Typical Crush the Gangstas. Speaking of crushing, are we all playing for second in the league with Dreadheads this year? He announced his presence with 119 points, and that's with his keeper of Todd Gurley only getting 4. If that doesn't scare you guys, I don't know what will. You got to feel a little bit sad for Dirte. I mean, the guy put up a good week. He had 82 points, which I'm going to talk about that number here very shortly as we talk about what's a good average score for the week. I'm not going to talk about it just yet. But let me get back to week 1 here. Let's talk about Dreads. Drew Brees, 38 points. Melvin Gordon, 17. A.J. Green, 25. Mike Evans, 15. 40 points from his wide receivers, A.J. Green and Mike Evans. That's huge. He ended up having a 40-24 advantage at that position, and his quarterback outscored Dirte 38-21. Add those up, and there's your difference in the game. Dirte, his team looks pretty good. 82 points was a good number. He just didn't get the amount of touchdowns that he needed to get, although he had a ton of touches in that. Dirte had the 3rd overall amount of touches at 60 touches, which means his guys are getting their hands on the ball. He just didn't get into the end zone a whole lot in the game, and he ran into a buzzsaw with Dreads. Now keep in mind too, guys, this is without Le'Veon Bell. So he threw up 119 points with arguably the best running back in the league, not active. And you got to be kind of scared that he's got some depth with Terrell Pryor, Kevin White, and Vance McDonald. Well done. We've seen this before with Dreads coming off to a hot start. Let's see if he can keep it up throughout the entire year. And let's move on to the last game now. Boats and Hoes at Triple T's. I'm always probably going to pay more attention to my games. I hate to say that. I try to pay attention to everybody. But it's funny. This game truly boiled down to one single play, and that was a 98-yard touchdown to Brandon Cooks. New Orleans was buried back on their own end zone. He had a straight streak down the left sideline. Brandon Cooks breaks containment at the line of scrimmage. Breeze drops it in the bucket. Cooks races for 98 yards. And he also was the highest scoring receiver of the week with 28 points. It's a 16-point play. The Triple T's won by 15. Take away that play, and I know Boats and Hose is chewing on that. He's thinking about that one single play. If he could have done anything different, he really couldn't. The only thing he could have done different is start the Jets defense over the Bengals. Still wouldn't have mattered. And Triple T's made the bonehead move of the week by putting C.J. Anderson on the bench with his 25 points. Latavius Murray did respond with 13 of his own. Triple T's leaving 42 points on the bench is a pretty big stumble. I do want to point out, as typical, Triple T's was a QB killer. Russell Wilson had 17, while Boats and Hoes had 12. The league average, interestingly enough, for quarterbacks was 27 points amongst all other 8 teams. Boats and Hose and Triple T's had 12 and 17 respectively at that position, so not good quarterback play at all in this. Triple T's has to feel pretty good about the workload his guys got. 66 touches was the number one touches in the league, so he has to feel pretty good about that. He's going to have to monitor Russell Wilson's ankle as he goes forward on that. So now, do you remember I said I was going to say something about that average score? What I did is I went back and I looked at last year's every single game from last year's totals. And it's probably different over the course of our lifetime of our league. But what I wanted to look at was what is an average score that a team needs to get a victory? What gives them the best chance of getting a victory? So what I did is I took the losing score of all 13 weeks for every single team in the league. Okay? Not the winning score, the losing score. Took the lowest score from each individual team every week. Okay, over a 13-week period, 5 teams, that's 65 total scores. I averaged that number out, and it came up to an average of 74. Okay, that means that the losing team over the course of the entire year averaged out to 74 points a week. So, what does that tell me? That tells me that if you score higher than 74 points, you have a better than average chance of winning. Now, we all know that sometimes you can score 100 or 110 or 120 and even lose. But statistically speaking, the average losing score in our league over, and this is last year, is 74 points a game. And I would imagine that it's pretty close to that over the last 6-7 years since we changed our league scoring. So when I say that True Blue with his 83 points and Dirte with his 82 points had a pretty good week, statistically speaking, that is true. Normally, they are going to win that game because the average losing score is 74 points. Now, depending on who you're playing, it's all a matter of luck when it comes to that. But thought it was kind of interesting to go back and look at that. And I'll be interested to hear y'all's comments on the stats side of what you think about that. I have never figured out what our average winning score is, but the average losing score is 74 points a game. So having said all that, there's Tuesday morning quarterback. Just wanted to add another little segment to this. I'm going to post this to the site, and I'm going to change it up every week, and I'm going to do something different. And hopefully, I'll be in a little bit better frame of mind and I won't just ramble. Love all you guys. Happy first week of fantasy season and good luck going forward. On this note, waiver wire opens up at 10 o'clock Eastern Wednesday night, and we will start bidding. I've got some adjustments to make to people's salary caps that busted. Not salary caps, but their waiver wire caps. I'll add that in tomorrow. And good bidding. And good luck next week. If anybody's got any questions, I look forward to you posting on the board. And talk to you guys later. Okay? Commission's out.